All, I am Prasant. Welcome in the series of AWS Solution Architect Certification Exam Dump. So let's jump on the question. A company is launching a new static website on Amazon S3 and Amazon CloudFront. The company want to ensure that all web requests go through only CloudFront. How can a solution architect meet this requirement? So let's highlight the main points. And it's a static website, so there is no any EC2 instance between it. Because there is no any business logic, so only Amazon S3 and CloudFront is there. So Amazon S3 is acting as a storage of that website details, static pages, as well as it is acting as to provide the website, and CloudFront here acting as a distributor. The company wants to ensure that all web requests go through the cloud, only CloudFront. So users should not access directly by the domain name of Amazon S3. It should go via the CloudFront only. How can a solution architect meet this requirement? Configure the S3 bucket policy to allow only CloudFront IP address to read object. Before that, just visualize the question. So here a user is there and there is a route 53 and CloudFront distribution is happening here and there is a S3. So it is trying to say like that when the user is trying to access, it should access via the CloudFront and the CloudFront should communicate with Amazon S3 and then it should provide the static website details. And here direct communication between the S3 bucket, it should not be there, and as well as even by Amazon route 53 it should not be like that it is directly communicating with the Amazon S3. It should go via the CloudFront only. So this is the pictorial diagram for that, explaining in more detail about this question. A option is configure the S3 bucket policy to allow only CloudFront IP address to read the object. So this is trying to confuse you here. It is like to say like that if you are start adding the CloudFront IP address, then it will become more complex, and this is not the right approach to use the S3 bucket policy to allow the IP addresses for the read object. So this is like creating the more confusion, and this is not the right approach, and we should not do it in that way. Create IAM user in a group that has read access to S3 bucket. Configure CloudFront to pass the credential to S3 bucket. So here it is trying to say like that you are creating a IAM user in a group, and that is the read access only for the S3 bucket. But here it is trying to say like that you are passing a credential via the CloudFront, and already IAM policy has been assigned to that user, then it is not required to pass the credential. So this option is incorrect. C option is a create a CloudFront origin access identity, then update the S3 bucket policy to allow the OI read access. So CloudFront having one more feature, that OAI concept, and the OAI concept I will explain in detail in the next slide. And OAI concept is generally used for such kind of requirement because CloudFront knows that what is the S3 origin, and then we can also provide that read write kind of access to the bucket policy, then automatically that requirement we will handle it by using such kind of concept. So C is the correct answer, but let's talk about the D. Convert S3 bucket to an EC2 instance. So this is wrong answer because S3 bucket is an storage point and it is already fulfilling whatever is the requirement, and we should not spend more money for provisioning the new EC2 instance. And S3 provide a lot of storage, and EC2 is like connecting with EBS or EFS, which is more expensive to keep your object. And one more problem with the EC2 instance is the scalability. Then your static content you need to keep on copying in the each EC2 instances. So this is the expensive process, and this is not the right approach. So I'm marking it as wrong. So third one is without changing the design. Without changing the design in the sense, question is trying to say like that we are having the Amazon S3 and it is a new website is launched on it. So by changing it to EC2, it means we are changing the design here. So D is the incorrect answer. Let's talk more about the OAI. So here is the CloudFront distribution is happening to the user, and CloudFront knows that what is the S3 origin. So what exactly we are doing here, we are changing the bucket policy and we are giving the read access and updating the origin access identity. So CloudFront knows that origin access identity and knows that okay, read access is provided for that particular bucket. So it will those whatever the users are there interacting with that object will having the read access only. So this is all from my side, but there are the two slides I want to cover in detail about the basic concept and how we can provision the CloudFront services in your application and what is the flow. So here create a special CloudFront user called an origin access identity and associated with your distribution. So this is the simplest way where any kind of privilege we can give to that user which is associated with the origin access identity. Configure your S3 bucket permission so that CloudFront can use OAI to access the files in your bucket and serve them to your user. Make sure that the user cannot use a direct URL to the S3 bucket to access the file there. So when we are creating a static website, then we can give the domain name to the S3 bucket. So this should not be publicly distributed, so otherwise they can access it directly. CloudFront, so you can specify origin server you must have to specify related to your S3 bucket, like an S3 bucket on your own HTTP server from which CloudFront gets your files, which will be distributed from CloudFront edge location to all over the world. So each CloudFront is associated with the multiple edges, and that helps you to improve the performance, as well as edge provide the caching capabilities. So any static content is not going to update dynamically, that you can cache it. So uh, you can reduce the number of call to the S3 bucket. Create a CloudFront distribution which tells CloudFront which origin server to get your files from when user requests the files through your website or application. At the same time, you specify details such as whether you want CloudFront to long all requests or whether you want to distribute to be enabled as soon as it is created. So yeah, so this kind of configuration you can do with the CloudFront as per your requirement. CloudFront assigns a domain name to your new distribution that you can see in the CloudFront console. CloudFront sends your distribution configuration to all its edge location. Collections are served in geographical dispersed data center where CloudFront caches copies of your project. So it's like that you are having a multiple geographical locations. So each geographical location you can have the CloudFront distributor, and the CloudFront distributor will CloudFront distributor have multiple edge location. So in that way you can cache into the based on the geographical location the content, and you can reduce the number of call to directly going into the S3 via the CloudFront. So CloudFront distribution is very helpful for the higher performance, and it is good when you are having lot of static content, as well as CloudFront also provide the dynamic content distribution facility. This is all from my side. Thanks.